Look, had to get on my grind, ain't got no time to be making excuses. Success in my mind, I hit up Sean when I land up in Houston. Him and Gentry told me, AOG, when you chasing your dreams, gotta take that risk, so I stake my chips, put it all on me. It is what it is, put all the chips all on me, yeah. I don't talk too much, put the money up all on me, yeah. I'ma put 10 bands, 100 bands, millions all on me, yeah. I'ma put 10 bands, 100 bands, millions.
All right, Justin.
Yeah.
Welcome on. For context, what's your company's story? What do you do? Where are you located, and how long you been in business?
Yeah, man. My company's Fair Claims Roofing and Construction. My office is up in the Woodlands, Texas. I've been in business this year. I'll be 24 years in April. Started the company when I was 21 years old, and just have diversified over the years. And really, I tell people, man, we do well, but we're a company that's done. You know, we've been the single double guy rather than the home run guy, but we've done it consistently for a long time, which we've been able to build off of and kind of form pretty deep roots in the community that we're at.
Do you mind sharing your revenue?
No, last year was a down year. We did 7.5 million last year. Year before we did 10 million. With the recent acquisition that I made, that's going to add a couple million to that. From a sister company that I separated from a few years back, but now I've kind of regained the rest of that business. So
is it it was in the same exact?
Yeah. So I started the company with a partner back in 2002. And it was one of those things. I was 21 years old. We started the business, and the game plan was always for me to take over someday. The other partner was going to retire. And, it was always just kind of a handshake thing. We never really inked what that looked like.
Yeah.
And as you go along and, 10 years in, 15 years in, like me especially, I'm thinking, okay, when's this going to happen? The partner was a lot older than me. And it just kind of kept becoming one more year. And in 2020, I turned 40, and that was kind of a year for me. I'm like, look, man, I gotta get this show on the road. I either need to work out a deal where I can separate off the business that I've built here, or I've got to potentially go out and start over, which I really didn't want to do because I'd put, 18 years into building the company brand and the clientele and stuff that we had here. But he wasn't quite ready to retire yet. So we kind of got creative and worked out a way for us to both coexist with the same name. So we split off a different LLC, and I kind of acquired the business here solely, bought him out from that. And we both kind of coexisted for the last 4 years, but he's finally to a point now where he's looking to retire. So we've just recently kind of come to an agreement to be able for me to take over the rest of that business.
Was it the same? So what's your split between commercial and residential for the main company?
But most of it's residential. I mean, I would say we're about 90-10, 90% residential, 10% commercial. Most of the commercial business that we do is a relationship-based opportunity where, we knew either a residential client knew somebody that had a commercial building. We're well equipped and well staffed to be able to do those jobs, but most companies either are heavy commercial or heavy residential. It's hard to do both just because the business that you do tends to lead to more business similar to what you're doing.
Yeah.
So
Referrals. Did he have the same type of business, only residential?
Very similar business. Just residential, a little bit different in kind of how we built things. I kind of set more roots and really tried to focus more on kind of being in the same community and really just building a brand. Being in the North Texas area, it's more storm driven. So, it's a little bit harder animal up there because you're really more dependent on storms just because a lot of people it's a rare situation for them to pony up and pay a retail to get the roofs replaced. Not that they won't, but usually if you wait long enough, you'll get a storm, and most of those jobs happen from an insurance claim standpoint. So
do you have to have a relationship with the insurance company to get the leads?
No, not really. I mean, most of the leads that you get are through word of mouth. I mean, a lot of companies do door to door. We started doing door to door and kind of built a big enough brand to where we didn't really have to do that anymore. But I still believe that is the best way to go out and generate new opportunities for yourself, especially in an environment when there's been a storm. There's just thousands usually of homes that potentially have damage and need work. And even though there's thousands of roofing companies now, there's not enough companies for
when a storm hits. Yeah.
Yeah.
How else are you getting leads? Like outside of like a storm or insurance, like what's the main way you're generating leads?
And the main way we generate leads is through our online presence,
Yep.
the social media stuff that I do. But more than anything is just 24 years of relationships. When you've been in business as long as we have, we've done, upwards of 10,000 plus residential roofs, really within a 15 or 20-mile radius. So every one of those clients are familiar with us, had an experience with us, and they're typically the ones that are saying, "Hey, call Justin or call the guys at Fair Claims. They did a good job. They'll take care of you."
Whenever you have a cold lead, what how are you what's the close rate on like a cold lead?
A cold lead is still decent. I mean, if we can get an at bat, we're going to close 60% of even a cold lead. Some guys are going to close better than that. I mean, my staff average, I ran the numbers not that long ago, and it was anywhere from 60 to 70% close rate on any lead that they were given.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's real good. Our sales process is really good. Again, my business here has been modeled more in a retail approach, and
Yeah.
we've even kind of even morph that even for when we're dealing with insurance. Everybody gets so caught up in Exactimate and what the insurance companies will pay for, and that being the pricing. And I'm like, look, we don't need that. We can give a proposal. We can set our pricing. We can give a lot of different options, add a lot of value for the client, and just educate them and empower them to be able to make a solid decision. And when you back that with our tenure, our reputation, our accreditations,
Yeah.
it's it's pretty obvious that we're the best and safest choice most of the time.
What about the cost to acquire a customer? Do you know what it is?
I don't, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's something I
Well, y'all get
should
a
know.
ton, yeah, y'all get a ton of referrals too. Are you spending
Yeah.
anything on marketing outside of like organic?
Yeah, most of the marketing money that I spend is just in brand advertising,
Yeah.
which, as you know, is it's kind of hard to track.
A long term,
Um,
yeah, a long term play. Cause
it is, and I know that it works. And we ask every customer, how do you hear about us? We do track our leads and track how it works. Most people will say, I got your name from my neighbor.
okay.
But what you'll find out is when you get there, they're like, oh, hey, I've seen your reels. They're really funny. Or, hey, I've seen your signs at the ball field, because we've got big signs at the Woodlands High School. I've got all the foul pole signs at one of the Little League parks.
Yeah.
I've
So
got
it's
all the
almost
foul pole
like
signs.
they already know who you are. And then whenever the neighbor gives you a little bit of credibility, they're like, oh, I'm
Yeah,
calling them. Yeah.
it's like that refresher. We're one of the few companies out there that most people have at least seen or heard of, just because I've been investing into brand marketing there for at least the last 10, 15 years, fairly consistently.
If you had to restart in a new city with only 10 grand, what would you do in the first 30 days?
And in the first 30 days, number one, I would find as many networking groups as I
Okay.
could find. Again,
Real
roofing,
estate
yes,
investors. Yeah.
yes, all of those things, right? Because like most businesses, relationship is key, and people do business with who they like, know, and trust. As important as tenure is, if you can get to know people, they can get to know you, they realize they can trust you, they like you, they're going to start referring you business.
Especially in the contracting world. You
Yes,
get screwed
100%.
over so many times by fly by night guys. I mean, I've been
Trust
there
is
1,000 times.
everything.
Yeah, I've done so many
Yes.
projects that even us, you still from time to time, like, using somebody different or somebody, that was good and then
Hmm.
they either went under or fall apart and you end up getting screwed. So it's super common in that.
Yeah.
If you did that, if you started over, what service would you choose first? Would it be retail or would it be commercial or like would it be re-roof? Like
It
where
would
would
it
you
would
start?
definitely be retail re-roof. Commercial is one of those things that it is a long play. Most commercial projects take years of planning, and if you only had $10,000, you'd starve to death pretty soon.
I got you. Yeah.
Going after
And
commercial.
then the capital is going to be a lot higher, right? To
That's
do a
that's
commercial
right.
roof. I mean, some of our roofs cost 150 grand.
Exactly. Yeah. You either need capital, or credit, and usually both.
What does your daily schedule look like from
You,
start to finish?
it's variable from day to day. I mean, typically I'm up relatively early. Have my coffee. I kind of sit and evaluate. Hey, what are all the tasks that I need to get done today? But like a lot of business owners, you can't predetermine how much that phone's going to ring. And when you're at the head of a company, every employee that you have has different clients, different challenges. The crews may have a challenge that they're going to call you about. And I'm unlike most roofing company owners. I'm still very involved in the even in the sales process. I still go on sales calls.
Okay.
I do that because I like it. That is the part that I just love about my job. I love people. I love clients, and I also want want to be an example setter. I want to go out and show the guys that, hey, this is what it looks like and be relevant. I don't want to be a guy that's in an office that hadn't been on a
Or
sales
sitting
call
in
in
the
10 years telling you how to do it.
yeah, sitting in the truck all day.
That's right.
That's what got me working out super early because the phone, like, as a business owner, like,
Yeah.
if you don't do it early, like, the phone just fire start about 8 o'clock, maybe
Yep.
even a little bit earlier.
Sometimes
And
7:30.
yeah, just everything starts melting down and it's over. So that's what actually got me into like waking up before everything started happening and then trying to hurry up and finish everything. And this was even before I had kids. Like, I couldn't even
Yeah.
imagine with kids, I'd have to wake up earlier.
It's a
But
whole
especially
challenge.
being this, CEO, still being involved as much as you are,
Yeah.
for sure. When somebody starts, what licenses or insurance that they need in place to get started when roofing or
It's one of the crazy things about Texas, at least. Texas doesn't even offer a license in roofing. So that's why there's so many companies. Most of them don't survive. The average life of a roofing company is only 3 years. But in Texas, there's very, very low a barrier to entry.
sure?
If you want to do things the right way, which like us, I mean, you want to have the capital to be able to buy your liability insurance. I'm actually licensed through the Roofing Contractors Association of Texas. It's our state roofing association. It's a subsidiary of the National Roofing Contractors Association. They created a license and a process to get a license several years back that's fairly vetted and fairly thorough. It has a lot of value in that license, but it's not a true state license.
But that just shows the customer, hey, I'm not a fly by night company.
That's right.
I
Yeah,
didn't start out. I'm not working out of the back of my truck. Like, we have.
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've done our due diligence.
So in other
educate ourselves.
states, I guess, and I think I've heard that too.
Yeah.
If you're a builder or if you're any type of contractor, you have to have some type of license. It's just different in every state.
It's different in every state. Some states require it, some states don't. Some states enforce it, some states don't. Right? It just depends on where you're working at. It's kind of like even permitting. Like permitting in Houston, the city of Houston requires a permit to do a roof if you're doing a roof in the city limits of Houston. But depending on where you're at, there are a lot of areas that they're never going to stop you if you don't have a permit. But there are areas that for sure, if you're doing work, they're going to kind of enforce that. Right, wrong, or indifferent. That's just how it is. It's kind of how they do their patrol kind of thing.
If somebody was starting out, what margin should they expect to hit on repairing a roof, or whether it's residential, retail, or insurance claim? Like, is it all the same, or what margins are they
No,
trying to hit?
there's definitely different margins. I would say on the repairs should definitely be a significantly higher margin. Our repair margins are up around 50%, which is where I feel like you need to be, especially it's a lower dollar amount, so you've got to make more margin for those dollars to be worthwhile. On insurance, work, usually you're making around 40%,
Okay.
on insurance. That's why so many guys only do insurance claims. In the retail world, it's a little less. It's closer to 20-25%.
Is that because of competition and just trying to
That's right.
win the job?
That's right. Everybody just there's always somebody out there, and again, with no barrier of entry, you might be competing against a guy that's a one man show that doesn't have any overhead, any expenses really, probably may not even have insurance.
Probably not.
And those guys, I mean, we compete against bids that are at cost. People tell us all the time, hey, you were more expensive than the next guy, but we want to do business with you. But a lot of times, and even in order to get that opportunity, you've got to stay at least within 10-20%
Yeah.
of kind of where that range is at, or you'll
Yeah,
get
if it's double, a lot of people aren't going to go for it. They're going to just go for the cheaper guy.
right.
What are some things that, if somebody's starting out, that they forget when they're pricing jobs, or they might miss when they're pricing a job out?
Yeah, common mistakes, man. I mean, number one, you've got to make sure the roof is measured correctly.
Yeah.
I think back when I started, everything was measured by hand, and by hand is always the most accurate way to do it. But anymore, we depend on softwares. We use satellite
Okay.
imaging.
Yeah, I was wondering if you just use Google Earth and then
Yeah, and that works great, man. I mean, we don't have a big issue with it, but say for example, there was a tree and it was covering a porch and you couldn't see that in the aerial images, and you may have given the proposal without verifying that. You might run a little bit short. We had a job we lost money on a couple years ago because the way that our software pulled the house, it actually pulled a house down the street instead of the house that we needed to bid, and it was about a 1,500 square foot difference in square footage. And it was in a busy time, and the job got contracted assuming it was based on those other specs. And when we got into it, man, we were significantly short, and it ended up taking a pretty good little hit on it. But
One job, losing money on one job is not the end of the world. That's,
that's one of the benefits of residential over commercial too, is
yeah.
that, you get a lot of opportunities to be able to be profitable. And if you really miss on one, one or two, you're going to make up for it by the volume of the others. In the commercial world, those mistakes they could put you out of business
Yeah,
because
huge job.
you get into some. I mean, I've done over $1 million project on commercial work,
Yeah, it gets
so
expensive, man.
it does. Yeah.
Whenever we're, so sometimes if you have a flat roof, whenever we're buying distressed buildings, I mean, you really have to buy that building cheap, because if it's really distressed and there's holes in the roof and it's, abandoned, or it's just been like, not taken care of and it just has a couple leaks, you still, I mean, you're talking 700-800 grand for a roof.
Yeah.
And so even though you're getting the building for 200 grand, sometimes the numbers, you have to really be careful. It's tough,
Yeah.
man. Roofs are so expensive.
They are.
How's the cost like after pandemic versus pre-pandemic on like the material? Like what's the cost difference?
Everything, man, it's been weird. Everything kind of shot up and it just kept going up and kept going up. I mean, the inflation in roofing material was silly. I mean, I would say every bit of just pre-pandemic levels. I mean, and just to give a straight number, we were buying, say, your normal laminated shingles for around $70.
Okay.
Well, up until recently, man, that stuff had gotten all the way up to 125, almost $130 a square. So it almost doubled in price. But recently, there's finally been a little bit of pullback where they've kind of,
But still not even close to where it was.
and a lot of that's just been volume driven. If you look at historically over the last few years, like 2023, for example, or 2023, 2024, record storms nationwide, a lot of hurricanes, a lot of bad hailstorms. Building was still going strong. The interest rates hadn't quite caught up to all of that. But in 2025 was one of those years that, number one, building trends were trending down. They were
Finally
not
started,
building.
the real estate market did cool off. a
Yeah,
little
so that
bit.
shrank a lot of the pie of shingles that were being made. Well, you combine that we didn't really have a named storm hit the United States last year in the
Yep.
hurricane. There wasn't near the amount of hailstorms that hit big cities like there was the year before. So there was like a 30 to 40% shrink of asphalt shingles that were sold. I mean,
That's a
nationwide,
lot, yeah.
it's a huge number. So a lot of these manufacturers had built up, they went from being on allocation to all of a sudden having this volume happening where they've got all this production going out and they had to sell it. So the supply and demand curve, all of a sudden now they've got plenty of inventory and they're trying to make deals, which have kind of helped get the price back down, probably more in line with where it should. I think it was probably got a little excessive just because of the supply and demand justified it. But
The cost is so much higher still for, I mean, overall, when you're building a
yeah,
house, but when we're doing a building, it's so much different. And I know a bunch of restaurant owners that are really good friends of mine that own, 10, 15 restaurants. And they said that the numbers don't even make sense anymore. That like their old build outs are, 2 million and now it's like 4.5, 5. And of course the landlord needs more money because the rent's more and the insurance is more and everything's more. And he said the numbers just don't work to open a new restaurant. It doesn't make any sense. Like both of them, they're saying the same things in different areas. And so I feel for a restaurant owner. I mean, that's already tough. And then like the numbers don't. I mean, it's like on some stuff we have to watch our buildings that we still buy is you just have to be really careful because the cost just got so high and they never really, you would think they would come back down, but it's kind of just almost, I'm not going to say stayed exactly the same because it's slightly less, but it's not significantly less overall. When you're piecing in the roofing and you're piecing in everything together, the labor, everybody still wants a ton of money.
yep.
So it's definitely weird.
I had a job that I actually closed yesterday, previous client of mine. We originally did his roof back in 2006. When we did his roof in 2006, it was around $11,000
Oh, so you
to
got sticker
replace his
shock.
roof.
You got sticker shock on this one, I'm sure.
Yeah, this one was 30 grand. So that's the difference in price for really the same project, same type of material, but from 2006 to 2026, 20 years later, it's almost tripled in cost to get it done.
So crazy. How do you handle whenever you are on a job, whenever you bid a job, how do you handle like change orders or when you have to go back out and fix something? Like how does that happen without like making the customer mad?
Number one, we try to I always try to use what would I expect if I was a client, and handle it that way. Number one, people will try to get at you for things that really aren't your responsibility. To some extent, I'd rather take a hit and make it right, keep the customer happy. But at some point, you have to kind of put your foot down and be like, look, no, I'm sorry. Hey, that was already like that. It's not something that we're going to take care of.
Yeah,
But
building's tough because the homeowner, when you're building a house
Mhm.
or when you're remodeling a house, they expect a lot. I mean, they expect it's like, oh, just go ahead and fix it. It doesn't really cost any of your time, right? Y'all are already here. It's almost
Yeah,
like they kind of expect you to fix it, and
right.
it doesn't really work that way all the time.
No, it doesn't. But it's, to me, having a happy customer is
Yeah.
more important than the extra dollar or two you might make having to eat some costs on some things. The best way to avoid it is just to have clear expectations. And doing this for as long as we have, we've learned to look for those kind of things, to point out certain things that we could see becoming a problem.
Is it mostly
Um,
when you remove the roof and like the decking or something that you can't see or maybe some rafters are rotted or something that you have to go and
yeah,
replace before you do that?
and there's not too much of that, but we clearly tell them, look, we include, usually 3 sheets of decking
Okay.
in our project because we're always going to have some. But we say if we need more than that, this is how much we're going to charge per sheet. We're going to document it. We're going to take pictures and show you because you can't know for sure what that's going to be. The stuff that you get some pushback on sometimes is if they're looking at their house all of a sudden when you've done a roof, all of a sudden they're looking at their house really closely. And, if they've got rotted siding, for example, that wasn't part of the scope, and maybe that siding flaked out while you were putting the flashing on it. Well, now they expect you to replace that siding, and I'm like, well, that siding's rotted. We didn't make it rotted. That was just part of the normal process of doing the job. We'd be happy to do it for you, but I'd have to give you a price to do it. And it's just having those kind of conversations because sometimes in their mind, well, it wasn't like that before. Well, it really was. You just didn't notice it because you weren't looking at it that way.
Yeah, it's tough. Of
Yeah.
always a fine line of like
It
keeping the
is.
customer happy, but
That's
also
exactly right.
you can't go too far because you have to make money.
That's right.
What margin do you walk away from a job on? Like when it gets too low, like what's too low?
Depends on the season. I know it shouldn't, but when it's you're doing stuff in December and January when there's not as many projects as there would be. I don't mind getting down to 8-10% margin if I have to keep from losing a job. That's
Do guys work a little bit less sometimes? I mean, would they work for a little bit less subcontractors?
not
Or
not really. I
it's just
mean, those guys work so hard and they're paid well, but anything's negotiable, but for the most part, it's like you want to take care of the guys that are taking care of you, the guys that are doing good work. They're the last people that you want to ask to take a haircut, in my opinion, to be able to make something work.
how do you pay a subcontractor? Is it like a percentage of the job or is it like a base and then a percentage of the job? Like how do you pay the subs?
Yeah, our installers get paid by the square, which
Okay,
is 100 square feet.
gotcha.
And there's different metrics that quantify how much they're going to get per square, but it's already a pre-agreed amount that obviously we know what our labor cost is going to be, regardless of what kind of situation or circumstances.
Condition the roof is
Yeah, so we
in.
can properly bid it, and account for that.
So, okay, walk us through the sales process. So you get an inbound lead
Yeah.
all the way to when they sign the contract.
Yeah, we'll say a client calls us and like, hey, we're taking bids to get a new roof. My sister said you did a great job on her house. We'd love to get a quote from you guys. Well, we make an appointment with that client. We want to be able to go by when they're there in person. We don't typically want to just go by and email them a quote. That's a good way to get your quote shuffled in amongst everybody else's. But when we go out there, we try to look it up in advance before we ever go. We try to have some kind of numbers already put together before we get there. When you get there, you just verify that, hey, does everything look, like the Eagle View or whatever report you did shows it to justify your quantity. You kind of look for any things that you might not have seen on that or any, surprise things you need to point out to them, like if the siding's too close to the roof to do the
Yeah.
flashing, etc. But we try to go ahead and put the proposal together right then and there because the hardest thing that you can get in today's world is somebody's face. If you've got FaceTime with somebody,
Yeah.
I think that's very important to take advantage of. I've got a full keynote presentation that we use on iPads and Macs. It's kind of like a PowerPoint presentation. So we go in and we sit down and we run through that and we explain to our customers, hey, this is kind of what the industry is. This is what you need to be aware of.
It's
These
like
are kind of
education too. Yeah.
these are the high notes with us, and typically our proposals are built such to where We offer a good, better, best option that's kind of an industry standard that's a fully comprehensive proposal. But then we offer a lot of best practice options that are not necessarily our industry standard, but they're things we recommend. But we want the customer to know what it is and what it costs. So if they want to include it in the project, they can. But if I'm dealing with an investor that like, man, I just need to get this thing sold and need something that's comparable, we're not trying to force sell them something that's more expensive than what they want to do. But that whole educational process builds a lot of trust because most of my competition is not going to take the time to do that. A lot of them don't even have the knowledge themselves to be able to communicate that. But people are visual learners as well too, right? I mean, I can sit here and talk about roof stuff all day that I know what it is, but if you don't do roofing, just because I say something, it may not even register what that is. But if you're looking at a slide that shows what that is, all of a sudden now that makes sense and you retain it better. A mentor of mine talked about setting living room landmines for your competition. And it's not that it's anything like just aha, but anything that you talk about with a client about what you're going to do or how you're going to protect this or how you're going to do that.
And then
And
another
they
person
don't
comes in
bring it
and
up.
bids a job.
They
Yeah.
don't talk it. Well,
Yeah.
they've stepped in that landmine because now there's doubt of whether or not that other guy is going to do it. So just being able to get that time, I think, is a big part of why we win a lot of that. A lot of the work that we do, but in addition to all the other things that we offer that most guys don't, there's very, very few companies out there that have been in business as long as we have and have the reputation that we do. So it's just it's a built-in trust factor that you can't really recreate without doing it.
Do you ever close jobs where you're not in person and they're just over the phone?
I have, yeah. Usually these are projects that are going to be rental properties, investment properties, real estate transactions.
So he's like, just give me a price.
Yeah, we do a lot of work. I've got a lot of realtor relationships where we will come in if we know the roof needs to be replaced. Hey, they can send us an inspection report and we can quote just repairs if it needs it. Anymore, most insurance companies are not wanting to take on new policies on
I
roofs that are
know.
older.
And so it happens a lot. Like
Yeah.
we've sold a lot of houses, but over the years, it's gotten more and more where they're like, hey, we're just not going to insure it.
Yep.
Which is, especially here in Texas.
Yeah, and if you're taking a mortgage, I mean, if you're paying cash, you don't have to have insurance. But if you're taking a mortgage out, most of the mortgage is going to require you to have insurance. So that usually results in the roof having to get changed out, really whether it fully needed to be or not, just to be able to get it sold. And we'll do a lot of jobs where we'll come in, we'll bid it, based on the satellite images and what we know, and then they'll typically negotiate it out, and we'll either install it prior to closing, and they'll roll it into their mortgage, and we'll get paid at closing, or they'll negotiate it out, and then the buyer will contract us to do it once they take ownership.
Whenever we bought our most recent house, had no idea, it's under contract and, just all the normal things, had no idea that like all these insurers, like all the main insurers, Chubb being one of them that insures luxury stuff, they don't even write insurance on flat roofs anymore.
Yeah, wow.
I'm like, really? Okay. So the market is ultra small. So it's expensive because there's only a handful of people that do it. And Chubb won't even do it on luxury properties. Like it's weird.
Yeah.
And so if they've taken too many hits on something, they just don't write it. Insurance sucks, man.
They're a business, man, and they
I know
they
it's just numbers. And they're like, there's too many claims here. We're just not going to write it anymore.
Yep.
And the customer just was like super screwed.
Well, I think our industry too, over the last, I'd say 15 years at least, as people have realized that, hey, this industry is pretty profitable and, oh, hey, I can go recreate and do that. Oh, and there's no barrier of entry. We've created thousands and thousands of roofing companies that are just door-to-door guys going out and generating stuff. Some of it's legitimate and some of it's not. But the industry has created a significant amount more claims than what the insurance industry would have normally experienced. And because of that, they're cracking down. It's like, look, they can't afford. They've raised the rates up to where they're crazy expensive.
It's expensive,
and they're writing language in the policy now to where the coverage amounts are less and less. I mean, a lot of policies now have what's called a roof schedule, where instead of it being full 100% replacement based on the age of it, if it's 12 years old, for example, it may be insured for 72%, and when it gets to 13 years, it goes to 68%. 14 years, it gets down to 62%, or whatever the schedule is. And that's still subject to your deductible. Most people have a 2% deductible. And that's been one of the biggest things that I've really seen an impact for and why my business has shifted even more retail, because up in the market that I'm at, it's more of an affluent market, a lot of high home values. Man, 5 years ago, a $500,000-$600,000 home probably had a 1% deductible. They might have had a $5,500 deductible. And if a storm came through, well, they would have been willing to pay $5,500 to change out what might have been a $25,000 job.
Mhm.
Well, now that job might be 30,000, but your house is now appreciated up to 900,000, $1,000,000. Oh, and you've got a 2% deductible, so you've got an $18,000 to $20,000 out of pocket expense for a $30,000 job. I mean, if your roof's 19 years old, you're still going to do that because you're buying it for a third of the price. But if your house is only 10, 12 years old, you're not going to spend that kind of money to change the roof out. You're going to let it go until it starts failing,
I hate insurance. I
and
hate
it's really
ins-
reducing the amount of claims that are being filed because of it.
Yeah, I hate insurance. Whenever you're pitching to the homeowners or you're trying to close a job, do you always offer them just one package or one price, or do you give them a payment plan? Like how does it work on the retail side when
Yeah,
it's not insurance?
we offer financing, and even on insurance jobs, we
Okay.
will offer financing. Technically, they could keep their insurance money and finance the roof and go use their insurance money to
Gotcha.
make an investment if they wanted to.
Okay.
Most people aren't going to do that, and most of my clients are people that have enough liquid to be able to just do it. But I can say over the last year, we've financed more customers than we've ever financed before. I think more people are just with the political environment, economic
Yeah.
environment we're in, even people that have liquid cash are wanting to hold on to their liquid cash. It just feels safer, even if they're paying a little bit of interest over a period of time to do it. But
Hey everyone, real quick, I just want to let you know this podcast is 100% independent. No ads, no sponsors, just real. If you're finding value in whatever we're doing here, the biggest help that you can give us is hitting subscribe and sharing this with someone who you think needs to hear it or someone that it will provide value to. That's how we continue to grow. And if you did that, I would really appreciate it. Do you use like finance everything in house, or do you use just like a third party that finances it for you, takes a percentage?
definitely use a third party, and I've got a great partner. I've used several partners over the years. The one that I've got now, I'm very happy with.
It also keeps you from chasing down homeowners and saying, "Hey, you're not paying me." And
No joke.
yeah,
Well,
it's
and
bad.
you can't really afford to be the bank, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, yeah.
even making good margins. I mean, you're upside down until you get to a certain point, depending on how much you're financing. And I mean, I would always finance an amount that I would be comfortable not collecting. If it was a situation like if our margin was good, but yeah, it's just really not our business model. You don't want to be the ones having to send statements and keep up with who's paying and who's not, and it's just a pain. So, but
Focus on what you're good at.
that's right.
On the sales rep side, how do you compensate the sales reps?
Yeah. So we pay a percentage of the profit of our jobs. Some companies just pay a percentage of the retail price.
Is there a base plus commission, or is it just
They're
straight
not. I
commission?
mean,
Yeah.
my sales reps are independent contractors. I've got them set up that way. I've got one that's an actual employee that we have a little more structure with, but the rest of them are a little more autonomous. We provide them opportunities, but they still work independently. I require those guys to be an LLC. I don't deal with hiring individuals as a 1099. It gets a little hairy with
Yeah.
employment law, but having them have their own LLC, it's a lot easier for us just to pay their LLC their commission that they earn. But they do work on 100% commission, but we do pay a pretty generous percentage of the profit.
Better for them too, anyways, because you can have expenses and have some other stuff.
Yes,
And
definitely
you're just not
lowers-
a straight W-2, which is like the worst tax rate that you can get.
That's right.
Yeah.
So it works out well for them. But yeah, but we have a tiered system too, depending on, your experience, how long you've been here, and there's kind of a very established benchmark. To when you get to these benchmarks, you get a greater percentage of the profit on the jobs that you're selling and managing for us.
What about the review system? And with online, I'm sure it's a big thing, especially Google.
Yeah.
Do you automate the reviews, or how does it work on the reviews after you finish a job?
We do, man. And I actually came up with a great thing a couple years ago that's really benefited us being able to get more reviews.
Because if you rely off your guys, I used to have a retail company trying to get Google reviews, and they ask it 30% of the time, and then they just forget, or you get busy, or they just don't want to ask. I mean, it's a combination of everything.
It's so tough, man. I mean, even the ones that you ask, they'll tell you they'll do it. I would say if you can get 20 or 30% of your customers to give a review, you're killing it, because the others won't.
Also, even me, like even when I want to review people, sometimes it's like, well, I don't use a Gmail, and then I have to like go in and I have one, but I don't even know how to log into it. Yeah.
Yeah, it can be a bit inconvenient.
So how do you? What's the audit? Is it just automated now?
It is. we used an automated system. We actually got away from it to where we're still doing it manually. I've got staff in the office, and that's part
Okay.
of their job is, we're not doing such a volume that's hard to keep up with. I mean, and even in a busy week, you're talking less than 20 clients that you'd be messaging for reviews.
That, and if you're following up and saying, "Hey, how'd the job go?" and so you have somebody in the
Right.
office, it's just like making sure they're happy.
Yes. But we also have a little bit of a kind of an incentive. I had a kind of an idea that's worked out really well. In my business, especially if you're doing a full roof for somebody, you don't usually have a reason to go back out to that home. I mean, the reality is your roof wouldn't even need a typical service like actually work unless something was failing prematurely, usually for at least 5 to 7 years, just to try to tune things up. So, and most times people are not going to call you for that stuff anyway. But especially up in the woodlands where I'm at, there's a big issue with pine needles, a lot
Yeah,
of pine
trees.
trees, all
Yeah.
that stuff gets onto roofs. So as a differentiating tool, we started offering a free uh, roof cleaning and maintenance service to where if you hire us for a new roof once a year, kind of in the anniversary month of when we do your roof, we send our roof tech out at no cost to clean all that stuff off for you. By the way, while he's there, he's going to check, see if there's any manufacturing defects that may not be visible from the ground. We're going to check your caulking to make sure the drought conditions hasn't dried it out and the caulking's coming off of a nail head that needs to be recaulked. We're just going to kind of stay on top of that for you. But we really appreciate it as a thank you for giving you that service for free, that you will give us a review. So it kind of gives us at least a talking point to be able to, when we're asking for the review, just to remind them that we're doing that for them. And we'd be appreciative if they'd take the time to give us a review because, it's a pretty high value. We even show what the value of that service is.
I was about to say service businesses on Google are still, I mean, it's still strong. I wonder what happens with AI when as people start searching more and more in AI, it's like, hey, give me who are the most dependable roofing companies in Houston
Yeah.
or whatever. I
It's-
wonder how that's going to work. I mean, I know they'll eventually have ads, so I'm sure it'll be some type of same system, but it's like, how do you come up in the AI?
Yeah, we're dealing with that right now because we're trying to re-optimize some of our stuff to
Yeah,
be
like-
more AI generated. Dude, one of the things that we're finding out, like I I haven't paid the Better Business Bureau to be a member in 15 years. With the digital era and Google
Yeah.
reviews, you really don't need the Better Business Bureau to tell people that you're a good company.
That was the original review system
It
where
was.
people would, and you'd only have bad
It's-
ones
it's
because
the
the only
equivalent-
people that would review are like
It's the phone book directory
Yeah.
of businesses. But they, not to talk trash. I mean, they have their value and they have their importance, and all those things are nice. But the only people that have ever asked me about, are you a
Better
Better
Business.
Business Bureau guy, or people that are older than my grandparents. But recently, my marketing guy, my digital guy that's doing the SEO for the AI, he's like, dude,
they're crawling
they're checking the BBB and they're recommending BBB companies over even companies that have
1,000
500
Google
reviews
reviews,
on Google. So I'm actually in the process now of rejoining to be an accredited BBB company, as silly as I think that is, just so that
Yeah. I mean, I don't
AI will
know
see
where it's
that.
going to go. I don't know where it's going to go, and I don't know. I think eventually, you have ads in AI is
Yeah.
where they're going to have to just to make money. It'll be like a Google, like you have the sponsored link, and then you'll probably
Mm-hmm.
have some type of review system in AI. I would guess, like that it would find. I don't know, but yeah, it's,
does it taint the value of the intelligence if they're promoting things based on monetary gain and not just true intelligence of what it's finding?
I have no idea
Because
what's
that's
going
like
to happen.
when we do a Google search for, right? I mean, when I see the sponsored ads, I discredit those more than the
Yeah.
organic.
But on the organic on Google, is it still like a combination of reviews and what's to pop up on like those top 3 when you search Google
Yeah.
of service companies? I'm like, hey, roofing companies, Houston, Texas, and there's like 3, and then the rest of them you have to click on.
Right. Yeah. So the map pack that comes up. So you have your sponsored stuff, like even your verified. You have your Google verified, which they put me through a background check and all that kind of stuff
Okay.
to qualify for those. So there's some value in it. But just the organic map pack, that's usually based on your physical location, kind of being in close proximity to the searcher. But there's a lot of other metrics that go onto that Google My Business listing as well. As far as the amount of reviews you have definitely gives you more relevance.
Yeah.
If you've got 500, you're going to show up more relevant than somebody
One
with
has
40.
one or
That's a big part of it. But your tenure, how long you've been in that location, there's a lot
Okay.
of algorithm factors, and it probably changes regularly. But that's really what we focused more on in the last several years in building. For true SEO, to try to get your organic website listed it's so hard because you're competing against all these advertising companies that are selling ads. But
And then the SEO thing with the way that the firms used to charge, it's like such a a lot of them can scam you for sure.
Of course.
I've been there. I've this is early days too, when SEO was like a huge deal. We're like, we'll get you on the first page of Google, and they work for like a week, and then they don't really do much after that. It was
No,
such a
they
scam.
always talk, trying to give you 6 months to
Yeah,
do
yeah,
it.
yeah.
And
It
then after
takes us
6 months,
time. It's like,
well, we'll keep doing it for free for a couple months, but you've already paid them 20 grand at that
yeah,
point and with no result. But yeah, I kind of gave up on that. I mean, when you've got even say 40 companies out there that say that he could be in the first page, well, they're competing against each other and there's not 40 spots. So there's no way they're all right.
what do a lot of your leads still come from Google? Like, can y'all tell that it's like whenever they call straight off Google, or whenever they click the link on Google and then goes to your website?
If they click the sponsored stuff, it actually comes in on a recorded line where we can
Okay.
know 100% that it's from Google, and Google's actually charging me for those.
Okay.
But if they just go to the map pack and see where I'm located and see my reviews and call me,
What if they click on the mat pack or whatever it is on the not sponsored links? Can they just click the number and you can still tell that it got
no,
sent
I
over
can't, I
from
can't
Google?
unless they tell us that it's from Google
Oh,
because they're
okay.
actually
They can.
calling my actual number directly
Okay.
on that. But they'll still say, "Hey, we found you on Google." But you'll also find too that even the people that found you on Google, they may uh, tell you that, well, like I found you on Google, but I also
Or I searched your name on Google, but I already knew I saw it on
right,
somewhere else.
right,
Yeah.
a lot of those things.
So what, I guess what's a good lead that you're getting, or what's like one of the leads that you think you're getting that maybe isn't as fancy or something? Is it just referrals, or still like the best lead that you can get? Or
In my opinion, that they are, and I kind of have a mentality too that any lead is a good lead,
yeah.
even if it's somebody I don't do business with today. I'm long-term minded, and I try to even, convince my staff of this too, because sales commissioned people typically don't want to spend a bunch of time on something that's not going to be very profitable for them, but they're thinking just today and in the present. Even going out and doing a service contract, even if it's a small repair for somebody, even if it's hey, your roof's actually okay, you don't need anything. That's now a new client. You have a good contact and a good interaction with them. Roofs don't last forever, and they're eventually going to need to be replaced, even if it's 10 years from now. But if you do a good job staying in touch with that client in some way, even if you just put some kind of automated system to reach out to them once a year, just saying, "Hey,
Yeah.
check in. I'm Justin the roofer that looked at your roof. Just want to keep in your contact list. So if you ever need something, give me a call."
That is what it is. It's like right place, right time. It's like,
Right.
oh man, I've been needing to do that.
Yeah.
That happens to me every once in a while. It's like you're putting off something, and then it's all like, oh yeah, you know what? I do need to get you back out here to bid this.
That's part of my even sales process. I don't consider something dead until they tell me they've done business with somebody else.
It's cool now with all the automated stuff too. Like you don't, no one person could sit there and follow up with all these people, but
That's right.
it's really cool. What system do y'all use?
So we're using a company called Nito AI.
Okay.
We've been using them for months.
Is it specifically for the roofing industry, or is it just
It was
a
kind of
service?
created for the roofing industry.
Okay.
It was a bit of a startup. I feel like we were a little bit of a guinea pig working through some of those things, but their chat bots are really good, and it's set up to where we can upload our CSV files that we
Oh,
export out
cool.
of our
Yeah.
our CRMs. But we can filter it however we want to filter it, and we can do mass messages out to our clients to offer different things or to do follow ups. A lot of automations that you can set up with it. I just recently signed up with the one that the woodpecker that
Oh yeah,
you know
that I
you
referred you to.
yeah
Yeah.
you turned me
It was
on
cool.
to.
Those guys are really good guys. They
Yeah.
again, it seems super cool. Like if I actually, told a couple of people I know in the service space, just in
Mhm.
general, because we have my business partners use it for like off market properties.
Mhm.
So they're using it in Arizona right now and having pretty good luck with like kind of scraping the information, starting conversations instead of just like having because their guys they had a sales team and they're just pounding the phones, like finding properties for us,
Yeah.
and they got paid commission or whatever. So at least it gets you to more warm leads than sales guys just like hammering, calling 100 people, and all of them are bad, right? That just 100 no's. But at least if you
Yeah.
have like 30-40% of those are like warm leads, you have people that are actually interested in selling, so their conversations are better. They've been having pretty good luck with it.
Yeah.
So I'm sure it's a little bit of trial and error. It took them a couple like months to get it like really dialed in, but we've got some properties from it.
That's cool. My concern with a lot of that is that at what point do our phones start filtering out the ability to receive those messages. I know that even with the most recent
It
Apple
is.
update, they've already started filtering in unknowns from, promotion, from, receipts or whatever it is. And I know at least theirs are going to stay at least as an unknown number. So if an unknown contact contacts you, that's what it shows up. But even myself, I'm finding I'm having to really pay attention, because if a new client messages me and they're not saved, I may not see that message right away, because I've got to go to the unknown senders to be able to see those
Oh
things.
yeah, and then the spam button's like right below the message now. So if you want
Yeah.
to like delete, if you press delete, it's like, do you want to report this as spam?
Yeah.
So
Enough people report you, then you're
yeah,
going to get
yeah,
blacklisted
yeah. So
from
I
the
didn't
stuff
know
you're
how that
doing.
worked on the phone number side. Do they use a different number
Well,
or
yeah,
like
they
a
they
different system? That way, if it comes out from different servers, so it's not like
right.
one number
That's
sending a bunch of
exactly what
stuff.
it is.
Yeah,
Yeah, they just but all the numbers they have go through the registration process to show that it's a valid number and it's connected to your business. It's not just some robo number they're blasting things out from, to at least give you that credibility up front.
on the operation side, like right when you win a job, what happens like immediately after? Like, what's the first thing that happens in operations?
Yeah, so we have through our CRM, there's just kind of different statuses that everything goes through. So once you've got an agreement made, we have the DocuSigns and everything uploaded for the job, all the photos, all the orders and everything that we do. Then it kind of automates a queue that it's ready to be scheduled. That's something that I still do. I still schedule all of our big projects. My assistant schedules all of our repairs. But I go in and just put it onto the calendar, and then there's an automated system within our office of who orders the materials. And
That's what I was about to say. Who
yeah,
orders materials? Who like verifies the quantities on the job? Who does all that?
yeah. So everything in house we do in the office, as far as sending the orders, sending the work orders to the crew. But the on-site stuff is still done by the sales rep that sold the job. They're still kind of managing that project to make sure that
And then
stuff's
somebody in
there.
the office is just ordering materials getting delivered to the job site, and then the
Yeah.
subcontractors start.
And my templates and systems already have the material orders generated. We just have one person that watches the schedule, that sends those orders over to the distributor and tells them when we want it delivered, and if there's any notes of where it needs to be delivered at. Uh, that's
How
up to
often
him.
are you getting called back out to fix stuff?
Not very often.
Okay.
Not very often at all. I mean, our warranty rate is pretty low. But the most common thing is stuff that's related to caulking, like on pipe jacks, like a furnace vent or a hot water heater vent. Those vents go up through a collar, and that's usually just sealed with caulking. Well, 3 or 4 years in, I mean, if it's been really dry, or if the caulking doesn't hold up well, it can split, and then you can get rain that can kind of come in. So they'll call us to come back out and recaulk that kind of stuff. But
What were your first three hires whenever you were just starting out and you were like went from a one man show to a real company?
yeah, well, my first three hires back then were hiring just salespeople,
Yeah.
to try to get
More jobs.
yeah, to try to get more job. And back then it was very much just the door knock game, and we were chasing kind of old damage. It wasn't from a recent storm, but we were working in neighborhoods that had storms in the past to try to see what we get going. I mean, this is over 20 years ago.
Yeah, and those guys
Um,
would just it's straight commission. You're just like, hey, go knock these doors
yeah,
and
and we were all young. I
yeah.
mean, hell, I was 21, 22 years old. And the guys that I had around me were a little bit older than me, but not much. And man, I probably put 8 or 9 companies in business back then, because that once they figured it out, like, hey, why am I working for you? And they could go out and do that for themselves.
That's
Um,
every industry's like that.
yeah, but honestly, though, it was good for me, because it allowed me to understand that, hey, I've got to create more value for my reps than just a brand that you're representing. And that's why I've done some of the things that we've done, and invested some of the money that I've invested in. I mean, we generate a lot of leads now that are fed to them, that they're not having to go out and knock on
Yep.
those doors. And there's very few companies out there that have the tenure working for a 24-year-old established business. It's just a lot easier place for them to be. And we also compensate really well. I mean, we try to compensate them in a way to where whatever extra money you think you'd make, well, you'd be spending that on
There's no
operations
cap.
anyway. So
Yeah,
you're
there's
really
no
not,
cap on it.
yeah, you're gaining liability in exchange for really not much extra money.
How do you know when it's time to hire another sales rep? Like at what point, if you're trying to scale, I mean, you still want to give your
Yeah.
guys enough leads.
That's really my biggest challenge. And I feel like I've somewhat figured out how I want to scale and grow. But the challenge for me, having morphed my business into what it is now, to where we are pretty much a lead service sales process company.
Yeah.
We're not a door knock lead generation company like a lot of my competitors are, because when a storm hits, you just hire more guys because everybody, the whole process is geared upon generating a lead, going out, knocking on doors and doing that. Well, my entire staff is used to the leads being set for them, or they've been doing this. A lot of my guys are well tenured. Their cell phone rings as much as our office phone rings with opportunities for them.
Referrals, yeah.
So when I bring somebody in, if they're green and don't know the industry, it's really hard to teach them how to go out and establish themselves, because you don't want to just dilute the lead pool where the people that you have are having less opportunities because you're bringing in
course.
a rookie to show them how to do
And
that.
then they're pissed, and then they
But
want to get another job. If like, oh, you're giving all the leads to the new guy.
yeah. So, but recently I've been able to hire some established guys in the industry that their business model is doing the door to door, getting out hustling and chasing. So I've finally got some guys in place now that can model that, where you can bring some people in. But I think my big plan for trying to acquire people are going to be acquiring people maybe that are not right on top of us.
I was about to say,
where I'm
what about
at.
expanding into a different
Yeah,
city or
even
county,
even
or just
even
going?
Houston, as big as Houston is, I mean, the majority of all my people are up north. So I mean, there's a lot of opportunity to expand in here. But I think my key people are finding people that maybe they're working for another organization, maybe they're not being compensated well, maybe the organization's a Mickey Mouse outfit, but they're kind of the driving force of the sales. Well, I think I could provide them a great opportunity that would be a much better fit for them, where they'd have an opportunity to make more money, but it also give me a chance to be able to grow, man. I mean, if you can hire guys that are going to sell, if they've consistently sold over $1 million a year, they're making decent money already. But if you can get 10 guys that do that, well, I could double the size of my company. And there's a lot of guys out there that are doing
Yeah,
that
and I'm sure
stuff.
you can probably find them with a low barrier to entry. It's like you said, there's a lot of Mickey Mouse operations that either they're not getting compensated right, or they're getting screwed around, or
Yeah.
wasn't what's promised to them.
Yep.
What role makes the biggest difference going from like 1 to 5 million in revenue? Like who's the main key to do that, or what role do you need to have?
Man, it really the good outside people,
Yeah.
to be able to have those opportunities and to be able to close them. One of the things that I've seen over the years, man, like when we started out, I mean, you were very much generating everything. And I remember like the first little storm that we had, that was a decent little hailstorm. Well, it's like all of a sudden that created an influx and created a little bit more of a base. Well, then you had, Hurricane Ike, where it went like this, and then it established a little bit more of a base. And then you have another event. And it's like after every event where there's a lot of volume, it's like your new base and your new normal of what just comes in organically is now more inconsistent. And that's part of how we've been able to grow and even maintain the growth. I mean, like last year was a little bit of a down year, but like I was saying, it was industry wide down 30 to 40%. We were down right at 25%, I guess, for the year last year. But still, I mean, to be able to consistently do that, there's a lot of companies that'll go out and they'll have a pop rocket year and then they're down to nothing. I mean, they just completely go out of business a year or two later because they don't have a way to have a base. All they know is to go out and work a storm. If there's no storm, then they're don't have anything to do, because they're not established. They don't have any value to be able to go out and sell in a retail environment.
What net profit are you looking to hit? Like, what would be a good margin for you to hit at the end of the day, like after everything?
15-16% net.
Okay.
And that's about where we're at now.
Okay.
That's after, all commissions and everything's paid.
What about insurance payments? How does that work?
It's expensive. I mean, our liability insurance is pretty expensive. With like most insurance, you put a significant amount down, and then typically we're just financing that out over the. Are you talking about insurance payments to us from clients?
But both. Yeah, that would be
All right. Um, you know, the insurance doesn't owe us when we do work for people. And that's something that has to be communicated to clients. We're not a hospital. We don't have contracts with insurance
So
companies.
they pay the client, and then the
Yeah,
client.
the client pays us, and it's important to communicate that to your client because it's real easy for them to get this idea that, well, the insurance company owes you, not me. No, we're contracting to do the job. This is what the job
Gotcha.
costs. I've got to get paid by you, whether the insurance company pays you or not. Now, I can certainly do everything I can to help you get your money from them, but ultimately, this is your debt to me, not the insurance company's debt to me. And I think as long as the communication is good on that, we don't have much problem. But I think when they understand that, they're going to be more intentional about following up with their insurance company, making sure the insurance company is doing what they're going to do.
Fighting for the claim. Yeah.
Yeah, because even if we're trying to assist with that, the insurance company really doesn't care that we're calling. They don't have any obligation to us. They don't have any responsibility to us. But if the client's calling, well, yeah, they've got responsibility to them. They're going to be more apt to respond and get back with them. And, you learn by doing, right? I mean, we used to try to take ownership of all of that process. And, if you've got 100 clients out there that owe you money, you're making 100 phone calls a day. But it's a lot easier for 100 people to make one phone call a day than it is us to make 100 phone calls. And it's really kind of cleared that up. And, we try to stay out of that. I would even incentivize a client like, hey, why don't you put this on a credit card and earn some points on whatever your second check is? And that way, when the check comes in, you just pay it off, but you get to earn some miles, in the meantime. But that helps the cash flow in the process, because that's probably one of the biggest challenges in our industry, especially if you're doing much insurance work or even custom home new construction work, which we do as well, is potential timelines from start to finish and getting paid.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you can be floating some, pretty good cost waiting to get paid. And you either have to have the capital or the lines of credit to do that. So
Yeah, if they're waiting on draws from the bank is a big one too for builders and homeowners, really, if they're building a house.
it's strictly communication, and your staff has to be able to communicate the sense of urgency and feel the sense of urgency to get paid. And if not, it's just, if you're real casual about collecting payment, well, the client's gonna be real casual about getting you the payment.
What's some of the most common install mistakes that people make?
A lot of companies, it's like number one, I see a lot of high nailing that happens on steep roofs.
What does that mean?
So when you have a laminated shingle, a laminated shingle is actually made out of two pieces. You have a rectangle, and then you have another piece that bonds to it that has, your dragon teeth that cover over that rectangle. So it's like a rectangle with little dragon teeth that kind of glues together at the manufacturer. And that little overlap usually is about an inch or so. That's what the nail line is. And you have to nail it into that nail line so that it goes through both pieces. Well, if guys get going too fast and they shoot above that nail line, if it's on a real steep roof, well, gravity over time, that sun will heat that stuff up. And eventually that little rectangular piece that doesn't have a nail through it
Oh, start sliding.
start sliding off and falling out. And you start looking at mansard roofs in and around the city, where they're like almost straight up and down.
Yeah.
You'll see all those little, where you just see the tab and it's black underneath it. That's because the rectangular piece slid out from underneath it.
What about contracts? So when you're doing contracts with people, what's like the biggest thing that you have to have in there?
The biggest contract, or
the biggest item that you need in your contract when you're, I guess, with the homeowner?
I would say just whatever your payment terms are, just so that you're crystal clear on, hey, this is how much we're getting and when, whatever that is. But I mean, contracts need to be specific, especially when you're deviating even things outside of roofing. If you're going to say, we're doing a job, say, for example, they've got some rotten trim around the window. Hey, they want to get that done too. We're going to include it. You need to be real specific on what that is that you're doing, because you get into a situation where you just put, oh, we're going to replace the rotten wood. Well, there could be 15 places of rotten wood and you didn't specify which one. And now contractually you could be obligated to have to do all of it. So just whatever you're doing, just be specific so that it's crystal clear. And then also just making sure the payment terms are completely defined out, just so that, again, you don't run into situations where the client might think that they don't owe you for something, or that the insurance company owes you instead of them, et cetera.
Hey, everyone, real quick, I just want to let you know this podcast is 100% independent. No ads, no sponsors, just real. If you're finding value in whatever we're doing here, the biggest help that you can give us is hitting subscribe and sharing this with someone who you think needs to hear it, or someone that it will provide value to. That's how we continue to grow. And if you did that, I would really appreciate it. What would be the hardest thing to replicate about your company compared to like the competition?
The hardest thing to replicate is the tenure. You just can't replicate it. There's nothing more secure to a client than a company that's been in business 24 years. Even if you're doing everything that I'm doing, you've been in the business 7 years, you're still a higher risk to that client than we are, because we've been doing it longer.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yep.
What's the fastest way people go broke in roofing?
Overspending. Overspending, not managing your money, and not collecting the money that's owed to you. That's, if you're not collecting your AR, the longer somebody owes you, sometimes the harder it is to collect. We don't have too much trouble with that, but we had some clients even over this last year that stiffed us. They got the insurance money and spent it on a TV or spent it on something else. And, you get a lien on their house, but you really can't collect on that until
they ever sells.
Yeah. So, if you've got to collect it, you've got to be able to collect it relatively quickly because fortunately for me, we've got good lines of credit the way that we buy our material.
What are the payment terms? So like if I do business with you, you sign a contract with me, is it 25% upfront, half upfront? Like how does the draw schedule work when you're doing the roof? Or
Retail contracts are easy because you just usually do, half the morning that we start, the other half. I don't ever like to ask for money before I've ever been there. We're not there with material because there's too many of
yeah.
those weird stories. I gave a guy a check and he never came back.
Oh, in the contracting world, yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
Especially for somebody that they know that they're never going to work for again. That's where you get screwed,
yes,
is like the retail homeowner.
yes.
Yeah.
The other situations, you get into a project that's got different stages or different things that are going on. We do stuff just more than just roofing. So we'll have a job that we're doing, say, the roofing and then all the siding for somebody, and then we're going to add all the gutters.
Especially when you're building a house. Like
Yes. So, like from a contractual standpoint, what's best is to break those down into 3 contracts and do them 3 jobs, finish them, get paid. But in the past, I've made mistakes by lumping them all into one lump sum.
Makes sense.
And if you're trying to do half and half, well, if there's an issue with a gutter, for example, and
it's like,
it's going
hey,
to
you
take,
didn't finish the gutters yet, but
yeah,
you need
you
to
got
get
somebody
paid on the
holding
rest of
back potentially $15,000, $20,000 over a $500 item. So you just have to have good, clear communications to be able to get that stuff coming in. Or worse, you get sideways with somebody, say that I'm just not happy with this. I don't like the way that it looks. We're having a very OCD client right now that's just obsessed about the way his vents look, and
Probably an engineer and attorney.
100% he's an engineer, and we're going to be okay on it. But we've already changed them out once, and there's basically 2 different ways you could do it. We did it the first way, didn't like it. We did it the second way. Now he still doesn't like it. I mean, he's wanting you to put levels on him, and I mean it's ridiculously OCD, and it's not even really
Well,
related
the
to the
mind
roof.
of an engineer. I knew what it was before you even told me who the client was.
Yeah, just
Yeah,
overthinking.
they're hard to work for.
They are.
It's
We,
strange. Not it is not. I wouldn't say OCD, but they definitely overthink and over process everything. It'll
yes.
take you 10 times longer to do a job for them.
Yeah, that's right. And on a big contract, I mean, you're potentially holding up $25,000. I mean, this particular contract was a $70,000 contract. Their final payment's 20 grand. It's done, and now he's got to be convinced that he's happy enough. Otherwise, he's holding that money over something that really is not even an issue.
We had a we had a person buying a house from us that was an engineer, and when you go to the title company and it's like there's loan documents and everything. I mean, he was getting a loan to buy the house, and he went through this is my title attorney telling us, like, I wasn't in the room, but he went through line by line and read every single word in every single document, and he would say, hey, I'm not comfortable with this language, and he's like, well, and then so the title attorney have to go, well, the bank already drew all the documents. I don't think they're going to negotiate with you on this, but if you want, we can. No, okay. And they keep going, and he would do it again and
Oh
again.
my
He said it
gosh.
took 4 hours or 5 hours to close. He read every word. It was like insane, and nothing was changed at the end.
Nothing was changed. Yeah.
Like he couldn't do anything about it
No,
anyways. It was
no.
like you have to accept the bank's documents
And
like
it's all
as they
standard
are.
stuff too.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
all standard stuff.
yeah. So crazy.
Yep.
That and attorneys are sometimes like we've had the same experience with some attorneys just selling houses too. So
Yeah.
what are 3 KPIs that somebody should track in the roofing business that they should look for?
3 KPIs.
Yeah, key performance stuff that you look at.
Number one, where your leads are coming from.
Okay.
I think that's really important. So what advertising dollars you're spending, if you're spending them, if they're paying for themselves, number one. But also even just kind of determining where you need to put your effort, your time, and your energy into helping those things come in. Close rate, I think, is also important if you're providing leads to your staff. If you've got someone that's got a significantly low close rate than the majority of the group, well, that kind of your key signals of, hey, you need to work with that guy, or maybe that's not the right guy for your team. I think that's a big part of it. Big part of it. But then also is just kind of keeping a metric on your P&L. I think one of the things that get a lot of companies, roofing companies specific, in trouble.
Every company.
Even myself, man, I had to make some big adjustments in the last 3 or 4 months because, again, you do a $10 million a year and then you do a $7.5 million a year where your expenses are set up based on your $10 million a year, especially like variable expenses, stuff that different advertisings, different things that were made total sense to do, but the return on it may not have been justified in a year that you're not doing as much business. So you just really have to watch that. Otherwise, you just kind of pay that stuff blindly, and before you know it, your profitability is shrunk significantly because you're not paying attention to what's going out.
Yeah, that's where a lot of people get in trouble, is when you start in business and they don't they're not looking at their P&L. They don't have a real bookkeeper. They're not
Yeah.
looking at their numbers, and they're living out of their checking account.
Yep.
Yeah, I had a builder go under that. Pretty sure that's how he was operating. But I mean, he did good for a while. Worked with him for 15 years, and then
Yeah.
just not probably living out of his checking account. I mean, I'm just guessing, assuming, because he had so many jobs going. I'm sure he was dropping them all in the
Right.
same account, having draws from different banks, and he probably didn't even know who he
It's
owed. Or
it's
and
it's easy
then
to do.
and then what happened was is when interest rates started going up and his houses finally started slowing down,
Mhm.
that's where he got caught, because I think he didn't really know how much he had, because he was always selling houses for the last 10 years. I mean, there's just so much happening, and then interest rates go up and it finally like cools off, and it's like, oh shit, like I owe all this money. It's what I think happened.
It happens all too often, man. I mean, and the same thing, like even with me and my material bills, I pay my material bills after 60 days. So I've got a 60-day
Yeah.
cushion to be able to pay them. So if you're a company that's operating like that,
Out of your checking account, it ain't your money. It's
no,
yeah,
you're
you owe
selling
it.
you're selling new jobs, and so often it's like you think, well, okay, we got to get to a place where we do a big volume to make up for it. But I even feel it in my cash flow as we go through the winter months because I'm writing checks that were to cover in
Material
December.
60 days ago.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. So in January, your expenses from November are more than they were in January. So if you're not keeping the money that you're accumulating from your AR as it's coming in, because the whole reason you have those terms is to allow time for your AR to come in. So you really have to collect your AR, and then you also have to make sure you're not just spending the money that's coming in because it's there. I mean, just because it's in the bank doesn't mean you can spend it, because you have to look at your AP too and what's coming down the pipe. And
I think a lot of people, that's where a lot of people struggle, and they just don't know their numbers, and they're looking at their checking account. And it's like, oh, I got $500,000 in here today.
yeah,
It's like, no,
right.
you only got 30 grand if you pull all your AP and AR.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's exactly right.
What would you go back and tell yourself if you're starting over? Like, what would you tell yourself or mistakes you can avoid? What would it be?
Man, number one, just to like kind of define things better. I mean, you make mistakes on some of these contracts. I would also say not every job is worth having. There's been jobs that I knew in my gut that this is not worth it, but I did it anyway, and ended up getting burned with headaches. And we've been able to survive a lot of stuff. I mean, I've had some nightmare jobs that, I mean, it's amazing that I got out of those profitably, but they were just a nightmare and such a drain on your time. That's the one thing that you don't really realize when you're doing projects is if you're looking at just the job and the profitability of it, you can justify doing it. But if you're not factoring in the PETA factor and how much time and how much energy and resources it's going to take from you or your team to manage that job,
Yeah.
and how much, I guess, opportunity costs you're going to cost yourself dealing with that type of client that may not be worth doing, or doing a job for a margin that really isn't that much for the liability that's there. It's not so much that job, it's what that job takes you from being able to go out and get that would have been better or would have been more profitable,
That makes
better
sense.
use of your time. Because there's a good handful of jobs that I definitely would have just said, what, we're not going to do that job. Number one, but I probably would have also went off on my own sooner. I would have definitely would have advised myself to figure out, hey, you're talking about an exit, when you're starting. Well, let's define what that looks like. Don't just leave things loosey goosey, because I think that could have been set up better to where there was a better understanding for me. But also, I probably should have brought that to a head a lot sooner than I did, because I had an 18-year investment into a business before I really started trying to figure that out. Unfortunately, I had a great partner. He was a great mentor for me. I'm so close, almost like family to me. But, just from a pure business standpoint, I probably let that drag on longer than it should have for my best interest. It would have been better for me to probably have had that conversation about best in the beginning, but for sure more like 10, 12 years in. So
I think
that,
that happens a lot when you're young too, and you're
yeah,
just trying to prove yourself. I know somebody in this a very similar situation, that same thing. He was the top sales guy there. I mean, like really top, like millions and millions of dollars they brought in, and they were all, oh, we're gonna give you equity, we're gonna give you every year,
mhm,
every year, and he finally was like, man, y'all, I'm gonna have to leave. And when he's gonna leave, then they were like, no, 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 sit down. And so we'll talk about this. We'll get the contracts drawn up. Still didn't do it. Just kept putting off the contracts, kept putting off
oh
the
my
contracts, kept
gosh,
putting off the
man.
contracts. He leaves, and they go start. Well, I know this because my business partners, he's a partner now in one of their companies, and they were able to go and grow. It's like ATVs and jet skis and like the Polaris dealership type stuff.
Mhm.
And that guy is now a partner with those guys, and they going to do 100 million this year because my partners are the right guys to go fund it, and he was the right guy to go run it. And they've just been buying dealerships, since pandemic, like every, a lot of old burnt out owners that are trying to leave the industry, and they're doing stuff that's outdated, doesn't work anymore. They were used to just people coming in and buying stuff. Now you got to go back and like really sell. But he left because of that reason. It's just like, if they would have just gave him equity, they probably could have kept, the star guy that made it all possible anyways. Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, same thing. It was the same exact situation.
Gave equity and autonomy, and he could have blown it
It
up.
took him a long time though.
Yeah.
I mean, he was there. I mean, he's older, and I mean, it same as yours. It was probably 15 years of like kind of stringing him along a little bit.
Yep.
So crazy. Well, thank you for coming on, man. Ton of value that will hopefully keep people from making mistakes. Or if you ever want to know anything about roofing, I mean, you went over everything.
I'm an open book, man.
Yeah,
They
that's
can hit me
cool.
up anytime.
Thank you.
Yep.
Appreciate
Thank you,
it.
Sean. Appreciate
All right,
it.
sweet.